Well, as you can see, I'm having fun. So this, I kind of needed to move the camera back farther or my nativity scenes closer. So these are my nativity scenes, and I got these, I'll probably break them now. I got these right after we got married. We didn't grow up doing nativity scenes, and so for us it was kind of sacrilegious, I guess. I really don't know. But that wasn't what Christmas was about, since we didn't really celebrate Christmas, so we didn't do anything with nativity scenes. So I kind of got into it, and I kind of like it. And I want to talk about what it means to me and a little bit about the history. But I've alluded to this before in my two beautiful scenes here. These are glass, and I'm just, oh, this guy's had his neck glued on. And Mary looks pretty good. She's got her eyes open, but she's got blonde hair. She wouldn't have blonde hair. And baby Jesus, oh my goodness, they didn't even know how to swaddle, because the arms were what you swaddled. And I learned very well how to swaddle with the newborn baby. So I learned that very well. It keeps them from the Moro reflex where they flail out. You snuggle them all up. And you know, sometimes when it's really cold in our old farmhouse, I do the same thing. I snuggle up underneath all the blankets upstairs, and only my nose sticking out, and I'm stay a little warmer. So you're gonna see, and this is the coolest nativity scene. Now I have tons of them. Well, okay, that's an exaggeration. I have a lot of nativity scenes because, to me, the cultural part of how we interpret Christmas is the beauty of it. Because I didn't grow up interpreting Christmas of any sort, but I put it into my context. So actually, I did not put my big nativity scene up this year, which is wood painted with the light behind it, and it's just shadows, so you don't even really know who they are. But they're cold, and so I just didn't put it up this year, and I don't know why. Not sure, but I didn't. But I got them all around the house, and I have ones that have no meaning at all. They're just cute little music boxes. In fact, one of them's the bears portraying the nativity scene, which is really off the wall. But let's not get too far off the wall, because I can get off a wall pretty quick and go down the side and jump up on another roof. But I did get this Fisher-Price set for someday when I would have grandchildren. And I have grandchildren, and he didn't play with it this time. And this isn't actually a true swaddle, except on the back it says 0613D. And he's in a manger, which that's actually straw, not hay, because hay is probably green in our culture. I don't know what hay is in the Mideast. But you're going to notice there's something missing. Oh, got the camel in the wrong spot. So I don't have the wise men near the nativity scene. And some of the things that we do in our culture, we just don't make any sense. We just lump them on. But I'm going to break another guy. The wise men came to see Jesus when he was living in a house. So therefore, we put him as a part of the nativity scene, not for accuracy, but for reminders. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that nativity scene is a reminder. So let's just go through the characters of the nativity scene. First of all, it's in a shed or a barn, which of course would not necessarily be accurate. It would be alongside a house, inside a house. We went to the Creation Museum many years ago, and it was one of the neatest things that they portrayed there is how that in the Mideast culture, as in our cultures now, and go on our safe harbor and listen to one of Patrick's recent talks about, did you know, I think it was a Monday morning. It was excellent because it talks about, we put it in a cave in the middle of nowhere, and no, because that's not the way they would have done it. They would have been a part of the house. So the Creation Museum did a really good job of portraying that there was no more rooms available. All of them had upper rooms. In fact, Paul in the New Testament, the churches, they did a lot with the upper rooms, and there was no upper rooms for rent. They were coming into town with a census. They would have been with family, because that's how you traveled. That's how you did things. But let's not get off the track. Let's talk about the people. So the most important people, I got another wise man that's not where he should be, is Mary and Joseph. And Mary and Joseph, I got to be a part of my daughter's baby being born in July. It was kind of cool, although I was texting a few friends frantically, controlling my grandma and mother anxieties. But Joseph wouldn't have done a lot with the women's stuff, because that's not what they did in their culture. And so I watched my son-in-law know what to do because he'd been coached by the midwives and by the doula. He kind of had a clue, and the other women probably would have helped. But it's overwhelming. It would have been very overwhelming for Joseph. And it would have been not just the travel to get there, but he loved Mary. When they came to him, and he thought and considered putting her away privately because he didn't want to make a shame of her. He didn't want to embarrass her. He loved her. And then he married her, and they take this ridiculous trip. Now, I've gone places quite pregnant in a vehicle. You make it work. You just got to stop at the bathroom all the time. Wasn't quite as easy. And if she had a donkey, there's moments where I'd have rather been walking than riding on a donkey. I mean, I loved my horse when I had him, but they're not always, and I had a Circle Y saddle, ecstasy, but they didn't have that back then. So I have a feeling that been walking was a good option a lot of times, just because you're more comfortable. Overwhelmed to have a baby anyway, but overwhelmed to be away from home, and it's the Son of God. And I think one of the things that when I look at the nativity scene and I see Mary and Joseph, I think of our first child that was born. Okay, now I do remember the other three, but that first one is special. It's different. The other ones, you kind of know what's going on and you're kind of prepared. Not really. You kind of are. But that first one you are in awe of the miracle that happened. We're in the middle of Hanukkah. The miracles that happened in our life that God has done, we kind of forget. But boy, when you have that baby, that's an amazing night. And I'll never forget it. So when I see Mary and Joseph, I think of the first child we had, and it was Adley, and how neat it was. And our births were very simple and I'm very thankful, very, very thankful that I could do it pretty quickly and had no issues. But boy, I remember sitting and looking at this thing that we had and thought, I got to take care of it. I got to keep it alive. And when Wade was a month old, Adley called me and she goes, "You need to congratulate me." And I say, "For what?" And she said, "I have kept a human alive for 1 month." Good job, girl. And so then you have some shepherds. And these shepherds probably hadn't showered in a while, so they probably smelled. But they saw angels from heaven. And they didn't even question their assignment. Go find the baby. Now, they were probably taking care of the temple lambs. That's kind of serious, and it's a huge job. And they had the sheep. What did they do with the sheep? Who stayed? We don't have answers to those questions, so my mind wants to know, what'd you do with the rest of the sheep? What'd you do? Were there more shepherds? Who drew straws and got to be the ones to go? But I think the biggest thing is they saw angels. And how often do I encounter angels in my life and I dismiss it maybe? Or how often does God give me an assignment like he gave the shepherds and I go, I'm going to have to think about that. They just went. They obeyed and they immediately went. I think I lost my angel because I did have an angel. I don't know where the other one is. So then we have the animals. And in my one I have a cow, and this one I have a donkey, and this one, of course, we have the camel, but this one I have a sheep. I love animals. My dad had a wild animal farm. We had bear. We raised bear in the house. We had the mountain lions and the bobcats, and that was just second nature to us. We just grew up loving animals. We had dogs. We had cats. Well, cats weren't in the house, and I would live with that one because I'm not crazy about cats. Love the horses, love animals. We used to go to zoos all the time when we were kids because my dad loved animals, and there's just something about animals. And God allowed nature to be a part of his son's birth. You think about that. He allowed nature. He allowed the angels to sing in the heavens. He allowed nature to celebrate. And when I go outside, I go outside at night, or if we're at the lake, and I just look at the stars, I am seeing God celebrating life with nature. You go for a walk in the woods. You go out, even the snow, we're supposed to have another storm, you see God celebrating nature. And you read the Psalms, and it's so much about nature. I see and hear nature, and God chose nature to be a part of his son's birth. I need to celebrate nature more than I do and see God in it. Not just complain about the weeds, not just spray the dandelions in the yard, but really truly celebrate nature as God intended nature to scream out who he is. And then we have these guys that get thrown in the nativity scene and don't really belong here because they do show up a few years down the road. Well, a year down the road when they were living in a house. We're not sure how long it was. But the wise men. And camels were used in Judges for fighting, so camels weren't a new thing. They brought them from the east, from Babylon. But it's interesting when you look at these men. Of course, they have goatees, which I do not think was probably the. And this guy has a beard, and he has a really ridiculous look on his face. If you really want to laugh, wise men or magi, they had studied, astronomers. They had studied, and they were curious, and their curiosity led them to travel. Okay, now I love to travel would be an understatement. Do you want to go somewhere? I'm gone. I'm ready. I don't even need to pack a bag. I can get along without clothes. There's a Goodwill or a Salvation Army. I can buy more clothes. I love to travel. But they came a long ways for a long time based on a star, and they knew enough about prophecy to know there was something big happening. I like to travel, but I kind of like to have a little better plan. And yet, if God gives me an assignment and uses my intellect, which they were very wise, studied people, or they would not have known the scripture, they would not have known the prophecy, and they would not have known what was in the sky, the stars. They were wise people, and yet they were willing to take off and go. And they didn't just go. They knew they were following the star. They were led by a star. And they planned ahead. You can't take that long of a trip and not plan ahead. I mean, I like to plan ahead. I'm a kind of a planner, organizer. But I stop at Econo Foods in Spooner on my way to the lake house just in case I hadn't planned enough. Are we willing to just really give up everything that we know and follow where God is leading, like the shepherds? They only went to Bethlehem. The wise men took a longer trip. And they had purpose and intention, and it wasn't going to be a microwave society moment. It was going to be a long marathon. Do I trust God enough to jump into the marathons? Or do I just want to be like the shepherds and take a quick trip to Bethlehem and I've done what God gave me to do? Am I really willing to be involved in a marathon with a camel? Because that's commitment. So I hope when you see nativity scenes, regardless of what they are and who's where and all the different components of it, I hope you really see the people they represent. And one of my favorite verses in the Bible is, "And Mary pondered all these things in her heart." You think? That would be mind-blowing to a young girl. To have said yes to God and then to walk with God. Carry the Son of God. Bring the Son of God into the world and watch other people being led by God to come worship the Son of God. So when I look at the nativity scene, I see things differently. And I love them. So if you have one laying around that you don't want, I'll take it. I'm going to break this before long. One of my favorites is I'm from Zambia. And I think it's very important, though, as we look at anything in life, that we see how it applies to us. Who am I? Am I willing to just go to Bethlehem? Or am I willing to jump on the marathon trek from where the wise men came? Some days I'm a shepherd. Let's just go to Bethlehem. Make it quick and easy. I'll obey God, but I'll do it quick and easy. But I need to be ready for the marathons that God asked me to go. So have a great Christmas season, and I hope when you look at the nativity scenes, you see things differently. Take a look at a different angle. Have a great one.